Hi, Tina.
Hi.
I am getting so excited and also nervous about the studio tour because I have lots of things to do. How-
Um, yeah, it's really funny because last night I was like drifting off to sleep, and then there was this moment where I was like, studio tour.
oh yeah, the dreams are about to come on.
But I am really excited about so the last time I did the studio tour was 2017,
Okay. Yeah,
18, a long time ago. So my work has changed so much since that time. I felt like a baby artist in 2017, kind of just doing all these things. And now I feel like I have something to say and I have like a well of creativity and ideas inside that I can pull from now. So I'm really excited for it to
Can you
show
remind me when you started doing your art?
artwork.
Yeah.
I think it was late 2015.
Okay. So you really were.
Um, yeah, baby artist. I was like, I'm gonna buy in pure Tina fashion. I was like, I'm gonna buy an entire paint palette set. I'm gonna buy three different types of paper and all these brushes. I went right in right away. Um, and I just spent like days in the office at home painting and not even like making anything. It was just like color mixing and just doing splotches on the paper, and it was the best thing ever.
I love that about your story as an artist, how organic it happened. But before we jump into
Yeah.
that, because I would want to talk about that a little bit. I want to take a second and just introduce you to
Yeah.
people who might be watching this. I'm going to post it on my blog and probably on social. Tina and I have been friends for a couple years. We were in a mastermind together, and I've hired her to do brand photography for me and product photography. She's taken some images for my artwork and also for some of my clients. And so I just wanted to share that you're an artist, but you also provide that service. But I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I went to school for photography. My goal was to shoot fashion, which I think is everybody's
That's
goal
kind
when
of
they
cool, though. I didn't know
kind of,
that.
I wanted to do like urban street style fashion. I don't know. I think everybody goes to photography school thinking they're going to get into the fashion world. And it's really interesting because the school that I went to was, it's called Antonelli Institute, doesn't exist anymore, but they really wanted to push people into starting their own businesses. Um, a lot of them in the wedding industry, which didn't really align with what I wanted to do. And it turned out that there was an opening at a studio of. She was previously a student at Antonelli 20 years before I had gone there, which is so cool. So her name's Maggie Green, and I got the job at her commercial studio. So she did food and lifestyle and product, and it felt like, oh, this is it. This is like the stuff I want to do.
I
Um,
love it
so
all.
cool. So I spent years, over 10 years, working with Maggie and some other photographers in the area. And in that time, I learned a lot about prop styling and food styling, and of course, lighting and everything. And it really helped. I think it helped my artist journey too, because I already had a handle on composition. Um,
Totally. Even you talking about the fact that you wanted to do fashion photography, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense because you're
yeah,
on trend and you would have to be. Anyway, go ahead.
I guess
Like
I
naturally,
really
naturally. Yeah.
I um I really loved it, but it was exhausting. It's crazy working in that industry. Maggie ended up closing her studio. She retired, and at that point, I was painting a little, and I started. I think I did my first Clover Market 2016, and I thought, well, this is it. I guess photography's done. I guess I'm gonna try to be a full-time artist. Um, got a studio, went like all in on the studio, like I do with everything I do. I just jump in. And I found that I was really missing picking up my camera and working with people and creating this like story element through images with other people and helping other people tell the story of their product or their brand. I really missed that. And it turned out that the community that I was in, this artist maker community, really needed good photography. And I found myself having a light bulb moment and being like, I think this is the path I'm going to go now. I think I'm going to split my business in two sides and do product photography for makers and other creatives, and also focus on the artwork that I want to do. It took me a couple years to try to mesh it all together so that it makes sense for me and my audience. I think it does now. It
Definitely.
does. I'm going to say it does.
Yeah, it does. I think it'll, like, ever since it's been a few years that I've known you, and it always made sense to me. But I know how that feels when you have like multiple sides of your business, and like internally it's like, how do I talk about it? But we have that in common. It's like a desire to want to work with people, to help other people, and like that's super fulfilling. And then being able to like come back and take that to your studio practice too is
Totally. It's so, being in service is like a huge part. It's like one of my values, and I didn't feel that that part was being fulfilled for me. So I'm really happy that I didn't quit photography.
cool. Well, okay. So share us like a little snippet about like you were starting to talk about how you got into painting and like that journey. I would love to hear a little bit about that, because I think it ties into like the kind of work that you're showing in the studio tour this year, right? Like the multiple layers of color.
Yeah. I picked up watercolor first. Later I was told that that's harder than some other paints, but I didn't really know any difference. There was an artist who's very popular on Instagram, Jenna Rainey, and I learned a lot from her online workshops and just her posting a ton on Instagram. And Instagram was completely different back then. It was like, it felt like a secret almost. Like it was before Instagram was used to sell people stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really great place for me to learn some basics and kind of get a skill set together. But I didn't know what I was painting or what I wanted to paint. I really just started painting what was popular, which was like galaxies and moons and floral things and all that kind of stuff. And it was fun, but I was like, I knew it wasn't me. And I feel like it's taken me a while to figure out that like I just really love tons of color, and I love putting it in landscape forms or abstract forms. And that's really where like my joy lies with painting, with watercolor and acrylic. I had done alcohol ink, and so I was like messing with all these different materials and mediums because I get bored easily. And it became a way for me to say, okay, I have this idea. So what's the right medium for me to use to get this idea across?
Is that typically how your work starts? Like you'll have a thought for something you want to create that's either evoking a feeling, or is it like a finished look that you have?
That's a great question. I picture a finished piece in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's like you go backwards and you're like, what do I need to do to like get to that final piece?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times if I'm not doing that, it's based off of just like a color palette, like a mango, or papaya is like one of my favorite color like
I
inspirations.
love your color palettes. They're just
Thank you.
yeah. They're so attractive to me.
Me too.
So for this show, what are the different mediums that you're going to be showing your work in?
This show, so it's going to be acrylic and resin and some watercolor. My goal, also miniatures, but I don't really know if that's a medium.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know, like
It's a category.
It's just a mixed medium. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to really I'm mostly using acrylic to get this layered um feeling of different colors being layered to sort of emulate tile work.
Mm-hmm.
And then cutting them down and creating these pieces from these like finished pieces from all the cut pieces of the artwork that I'm cutting in different forms.
And that's what's behind you on the wall.
Yes, that way,
Mhm.
right? I don't have myself view up, so I'm assuming it's this way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is like your focal point, you would say, for this show. Like when you thought about your vision, that was the vision.
I think this particular, it has evolved a lot. I think originally I wanted to do 3 different um, sort of set collections that kind of had something to do with each other. And I'm still sort of doing that. But the tile work just sort of it overwhelmed me in a really good way. And I just feel like that is going to be the bulk of the work that I'm showing. There's going to be a few landscapes and some color palettes that are really reminiscent of like the Gulf Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to show those too. But everything is sort of based in like 5, 6 colors, which is very hard for me. But I want it to feel like you're walking into a moment. And the only way I can do that is to make sure there's like this cohesiveness with color.
Are you ready to talk about that moment at all or not really?
Sure. Why
Okay.
not?
So what is that moment that you want them to walk into?
I want it to feel like a renewal. I want so the whole point of this particular collection is understanding what does it mean to be well loved? What is a well loved object? And for me, it's something that's a little bit destroyed. It's something that's worn down. It's an old photograph that's been touched a million times. It's a recipe that has been handed down generation after generation, has been rewritten. Like it's something that just continues to go on and is loved differently. And so that to put that into some sort of like environment, I was thinking of a greenhouse. There's a greenhouse in Valley Forge that's kind of abandoned, and it's been that way for a long time, but it's so beautiful. And so the whole thing kind of comes back to broken things are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's bittersweet, this life that we're living, and you can have these moments of being broken and also like being refreshed at the same time. And so that's really what I want people to feel when they come in, that it's a sense of something leaving and something arriving at the same time.
Oh, that's so cool. I don't think
Maybe.
I've heard you say it like that before.
This is the first time that I said that out loud.
Yeah, I love that. That's like it's so relatable and needed. And so how does the like tile work actually tie into that, like in your mind? Because we talked a little bit offline before, like the last time we were meeting, and we were talking about how our thoughts evolve over time while we're working on things. And so I'm just curious, like how your thoughts have evolved around the tile work. And
The tile work to me is kind of like an album of memories from the last trip that I took with my mom in Sarasota. And we went to the Ringling Mansion, which is like this beautiful mansion right on the water. And it was just one of those memories that was bittersweet for me. And I wanted to take pieces from the environment and put them into a more tangible state, which would be like the extensive tile work that they did at this mansion that leads you right into the water on the Gulf Coast, which is like wild to me.
Mhm.
Like it seems kind of like a waste, but it's also really cool and beautiful and
Like
odd.
the experience of it was so odd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And feeling, all the pathways were crushed white seashells and having that memory come through and being like super strong in my mind. So I wanted to take that moment and recreate it within this like greenhouse, you know, re- revival type feeling. Reliving, honestly, selfishly, I'm reliving the memories through my own work. I'll
Yeah,
admit
that's
that.
like, yeah, I mean, when you can create them for other people, that's what's like really fascinating. Because I feel that looking at those tiles. I don't feel all of that, but I feel like this just like I feel love. I feel this sense of renewal, and I feel this like strong desire to like be in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that yeah, that's I think I told you that before. Like I feel like desire when I look at those or something. I forget the
Yeah,
exact.
yeah, yeah. It was the emerald green one. You're like, it's pure desire that I
Yeah.
feel looking for.
But I mean, even hearing you talk about it, I'm like, it kind of is for you too, because you're like,
Yeah,
it's a memory that you desire, that you like, or that you cherish. And like, that's
yeah,
kind of cool.
yeah.
Um, so then how do the miniatures play into this? Because I mean, they're fascinating and like,
So,
I
weird.
love watching you play around with them. And yeah, I just want to hear more about them.
I think it was, well, Mike, my husband bought like a miniature kit for Christmas a couple years ago. And it was going to be like, don't get depressed in January project. And I have always loved really tiny things. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Polly Pocket? Do you
They
remember her?
a little bit, yeah.
So I was obsessed with Polly Pocket when I was a kid. Um, and anytime I see anything that's like miniature and very small, it makes me want to squeal in excitement. So I started, messing around with this kit, and I immediately got overwhelmed because I'm like, this is insane. This is a ton of work, very tiny work. I don't really know if this is for me. Like my brain's kind of like freaking out. And so I was like, I'm just gonna make one thing at a time. So I'm like, I'll make a bench, and then I'll make like a table, then I'll do like the next thing. And I can't stop making miniatures now. Um, it just became another way, another creative outlet for ideas that I can't put on like a 2D medium or like piece.
Yeah.
Um, so the miniatures for this show are also sort of like little memories in the like a memory in a bottle scenario.
Mhm.
Um, so everything has to do with plants in my life as well. So I have a miniature that is it's a miniature that contains a miniature version of one of the pieces in the show. And then it has this giant monstera plant, like that guy behind me, kind of like engulfing it. And that's sort of like that's the memory of me feeling that I'm showing work that is completely myself and just letting it out there. And it's just so fun.
Yeah.
I wanted these little seams and the crushed shell pathway that I talked about, like that's a miniature in its own.
I don't think I've
Um,
seen that one.
I need to do more videos of it. That one's been that one's been interesting. So along with all this other stuff, naturally, I'm like, well, I'm gonna teach myself how to do this and this and this and clay and all this stuff. Um, but it's been rewarding. So I am excited to show them.
Yeah, that one that you were talking about before you explained like what memory it was. I was like, it feels like it's a memory of you creating this work. That's what I was thinking the
Yeah,
whole time. And that's like what it is. That's so
yeah,
cool.
exactly.
So are
Yeah.
they going to be for sale? That's like I've asked you that like probably 5 times now.
They they are going to be for sale. I have two. I have two right now. I want three.
Okay.
Um, they will be for sale, and then I'll have like other miniature examples like throughout the show, but they will just be there to help tell the story.
What is it about the like the building of the minis do you think that like can you pinpoint what it is that lights you up about it?
I feel like for the first time, if I have an idea that's bigger than 2D art, I'm actually able to create it. And at the same time, it's like, well, I'll never have a greenhouse with this beautiful terracotta floor, you know, brought here from Italy. So I'm going to make a miniature version of that. And then I can say, look at this beautiful greenhouse I have with this terracotta floor. You know what I mean?
Never say never, Tina. You
I
never.
know, but it's like, well, this is the kind of greenhouse I'd love to have. So I'm going to make a miniature version of it.
Mm.
Um, and just in working on those details, like everything I do is pretty much down to taking the details and bringing more attention to them. And so by creating miniatures, it just completely falls in line with the things that catch my attention, which are like tiny things. surprising little things.
Yeah, I was thinking about how it really parallels your service practice so well, like your service-based work, because it's almost like you're creating these environments for people to experience. And that's the same thing that you do for like a brand.
Yeah.
Like you help position them in this environment that they need to like
Mhm.
show up in and be seen in. And it's just so cool how it all kind of like ties together.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
is there anything else that you wanted to share? Because our time's almost up and I like want to make sure that I give you space to share whatever you might want to share.
Um, about the tour specifically, or just
Yeah, or
anything?
anything that you're excited about that's coming up or any
I
you have.
am really excited to have people back in my studio at some point. So I am offering some new workshops that are really exciting. For the first time, I'm going to offer photography workshops. So you get to come to the studio, and I'm going to show you all the things that I'm obsessed with when it comes to photography and how to really. I want people to have fun first and foremost, but then also like use these skills to better their own photography for their brand, or if they're photographing food. Like I just want to, be in service to people again. Haven't really had anybody in the new studio yet, so this will be exciting after the tour.
It's such a cool space. And I can attest to your workshops because I took one and like my entire Instagram feed has changed since I did that workshop. So yeah.
You
It's
are a great student.
all right, Tina. Well, thank you for sharing about this. I can't wait.
Thank
I feel
you.
like we've been talking about this show for like now a year and a half almost.
Yeah,
And I feel like it's going to be like beautiful. It's going to come together so beautifully. So,
yeah. I can't wait to see it all. I can't. It's going to be great. I feel like very proud of it already.
yay. You should be. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.